Mr. Chakor Doshi, we obviously do not know each other. Still, I am addressing you through this video, and there is a reason behind it. And the reason is in 1982, when I came to Pune for doing my MBA, I did not know anyone in this city. It was the HND Jain boarding that gave me shelter, and that shelter which I got from the HND Jain boarding has made a huge positive impact on my life. And please remember, I am not the only one. There are thousands like me who came from different parts of this country, stayed in Jain boarding, studied, and have made a great career for themselves. Unfortunately or incidentally, you happen to be one of the trustees of this Jain boarding and have unfortunately conspired to sell this HND Jain boarding, which has given shelters to thousands in last about 60-65 years. Funnily, you have no right. You have absolutely no right for taking any decision with regard to the sale of this property of HND Jain boarding. Why I am saying this? I have gone through the trust deed very carefully, and I am going to share with you clause by clause which confirmatingly state that you or any other trustee for that matter has absolutely no right to sell this property. On page 2 of this agreement, clause 3 states objects of the trust, which very clearly says to provide education and relief to the students, to provide in particular hostel for students, dharamshala, libraries, rooms, sanatoriums, etc., and any other object of general utility, which apparently means that only thing for which this trust can be used is charity, and nothing else. It's really unfortunate that this trust, which was set up by your ancestors for the purpose and the benefit of the community, the great work that your forefathers have done to improve the life of people, you, without having any right whatsoever, have tried to take this right which your forefathers have created in the interest of the people and the Jain community at large. I would like to draw your attention to clause 7 of the trust deed on page 7, and it reads, this indenture of trust made at Bombay this 25th day of June 1958 between Gulab Chand Hirachand and Lal Chand Hirachand, Jain, Indian inhabitants residing at Bombay, hereinafter referred to as the settlers of the trust, first part, and Gulab Chand Hirachand, Lal Chand Hirachand, Phool Chand Ramchand Gandhi, and Mani Chand Veer Chand Jain, Indian inhabitants, the first three residing at Bombay and the last one residing at Sholapur, here and after referred to as the trustee, whereas the settlers, and this is Mr. Chakor Doshi, you must pay attention to. So what the trust deed says, whereas the settlers with a view to perpetuate, and I am sure you understand the meaning of the word perpetuate the memory of their father, are desirous of running hostels, dharamshalas, libraries, halls, reading rooms, sanatoriums, etc. Now this is the purpose for which this trust has been set up by your forefathers. And what you are doing, you are destroying this purpose, this perpetuity of the memory of your forefathers. You are destroying it. Very unfortunate, Mr. Chakor Doshi. But it does not stop here. It further goes, and unfortunately, it is not that you have tried to do it first time. You have done it earlier as well with regard to the Kasturba Mangal Karyalaya. This Jain Samaj and people at large, they want to ask you, who did authorize you for selling the Kasturba Mangal Jain Karyalaya? Number one. Number two, what have you done with that money? Where that money has gone? That money that money you have derived by selling a public trust, for which you have had no right. So the money that you have obtained by selling that property, on that money also you have no right. You have to give that money to the community. You have to give that money to the community. And you also have to give the complete hisab as to what have you done with that money. That is a moral responsibility that you owe to the society. Now let me take you to page 8 of the trust deed and clause 2. And again, I would like you to pay attention very, very thoughtfully. The objects of the trust shall to be provide education and relief to the poor, medical relief, and to provide education in general and in particular hostel accommodation for students, dharamshala, libraries, halls, reading rooms, sanatoriums, etc. and the advancement of any other objects of general utility so far as the same relate to anything done within the taxable territory as defined under the Income Tax Act 1922 or any statutory modification thereof without limiting the benefits thereof to any. Okay, now this is where again is the question. Where has the trust told you, or where do you find the trust permitting you to dispose of the property to a private builder for building a residential complex? Where has this been written? And even if you have obtained the permission or the approval from the charity commissioner, apparently that permission that you have got obviously is illegal, unauthorized, is not founded on the provisions of law. And since that permission is not founded on the provisions of the law, that permission apparently is not legal, is not tenable. That permission will not stand the scrutiny of the court. I'm sure that is what is going to happen in the days to come. Let me also draw your attention to clause 19 on page 12, and I will read it for the benefit of you so that you become aware as to what has been given in the trust, what has been the intent of your forefathers. Please remember, Mr. Chakor Doshi, why did your forefathers made this as a public charitable trust and not a private trust? Because they knew that going down the lane, some of their generation will not be as responsible, as visionary as how the forefathers have been. They could foresee that some generations, as you are doing, will do undue, unfair things, and that is the reason why they created a public charitable trust. Let me now read it for you as to what does the clause 19 of the trust deed speaks. It says, the trustees may raise or borrow monies required for the purpose of the trust and for carrying out any repairs to immovable property for the time being and from time to time belonging to the trust upon mortgage or pledge of the trust properties or any other part thereof, or with or without any security and at such rate of interest. So this clause 19, Mr. Chakor Doshi, authorizes all the trustees to do anything possible under the sun, including pledging the property of the trust for borrowing money for the purpose of repair. And Mr. Doshi, here I would like to draw your attention. I was looking at the income and expenditure statement of the trust for the year 23-24. It is noticed there that there was a surplus of about 80 lakhs in the year 23-24. And Mr. Chakor Doshi, it is not the question of the surplus of 79 lakhs or 80 lakhs in the year 23-24. It has got wider ramification. This trust has been in existence for almost about 65 years. And this H&D Gen boarding has been in existence for about that period. And as one can see, that H&D Gen boarding per se has never been in losses. It has always been in surplus. So if you take the time value into effect, virtually what we are saying, that whatever saving that the H&D Gen boarding must have created over the years, if in terms of present value, it could amount to something like 70-80 crores. Balance sheet that you have for the year 23-24 has got only one major item, and that item is a loan given for the purpose of purchasing property of 8 crore. Now question, Mr. Chakor Doshi, to you is, who authorized you? Where does the trust deed authorize you to use the money of the trust for the purpose of private lending? This is absolutely unethical, immoral, illegal, and this shows tremendous amount of irresponsibility. That is one part. The second question is, assuming that over the years the trust has generated surplus year after year, the amount of by the rough estimates, the amount of surplus that must have been there in the balance sheet of the trust must be to the tune of 70-80 crores. The question that I am asking, Mr. Chakor Doshi, I am not questioning you, I am not doubting you, but as a part of the public, I am asking you as to how do you explain the difference of 70-80 crores not appearing in the balance sheet of your company? If that amount of 70-80 crores would have been there in the balance sheet of your company, Mr. Chakor Doshi, the reason that you have given for the purpose of selling this property as to it needs repairs and maintenance, this 80 crores would have been much more than for any repairs and maintenance that you could have thought of. Mr. Chakor Doshi, it would have been more appropriate on the part of you to follow the legacy of your forefathers and use the surplus generated from the trust from the H&D Gen boarding for the purpose of expanding the hostel capacity. For 60-65 years, the capacity of the boarding has been only 230. What have you done in these 60-65 years to improve the capacity? It would have been more appropriate on the part of you and the other trustees to use those 70-80 crores for building, because there is empty of space available in the H&D Gen boarding premises. It would have been more appropriate to use those 70-80 crores for the purpose of increasing the capacities, because every year when the admissions start, there is a huge waiting list of more than 1,000 students who want to take admission, where the capacity is only 230. It would have been much more better if you would have thought on those lines. But Mr. Doshi, it does not stop here. Let me draw your attention to clause 24. Now, only right that you have as the ancestor of the Walchand family, and that is the Walchand family, the trustees, your settlers, your forefather have only given you one right as a family, and that one right is you, your family, Doshi family, or the nominees or the descendants of the settlers of the trust will have the right of appointing minimum 2 trustees. That is the only right that you have as far as the trust is concerned, and that to remember, not for the purpose of enjoying the surplus generated from the trust for your personal benefit, but for using those funds for ensuring that the vision of your forefathers is carried forward and not the other way, as unfortunately you have tried to do. Let me also draw your attention to clause 27 on page 14, and what the clause 27 says on page 14, and you must really make note of it. So the clause 27 on page 14 of the trust deed says, the trustees, and mind you, and please pay attention, the trustees shall have power to alter or add to any of the terms of these presents for the better and more efficient, and I'm repeating, for the better and more efficient administration of the objects hereinbefore prescribed, but so that the objects prescribed by clause 2 hereof shall not be capable of being altered or limited, nor shall the trustees have power to revoke these presents. And that means, remember, this is not only a public trust, it is irrevocable public trust. Mind you, I am repeating once again, and that confirms that this trust is irrevocable trust, irrevocable trust, irrevocable trust. That means this trust cannot be revoked. And I am repeating the lines, and you must pay attention. It says, for the better and more efficient administration of the objects hereinbefore that I have already spoken, prescribed, but so that the objects prescribed by clause 2 hereof shall not be capable of being altered or limited, nor shall the trustees have power to revoke these presents. So Mr. Chakor Doshi, all this reading of this trust deed and the clauses of this trust deed very clearly, affirmatively confirms that you have no right, you or anyone has no right whatsoever, with the permission of any authority whatsoever, to dispose of the H&D Jain boarding. And if you are doing it, and if you have tried to do it, it is illegal, immoral, unethical. And please remember, you as a descendant of the Walchand family, you are supposed to glorify the legacy and not bring a disgrace to the wonderful job that your ancestors have done. And therefore, Mr. Doshi, Mr. Chakor Doshi, I would once again urge you, whatever has happened, let the bygones be bygones. Let the bygones be bygones. 2 things that you must immediately do is to ensure to take the necessary steps that this deal that you have unfortunately executed with whoever is the builder, this should be reversed immediately. And number 2, as a responsible person, as the descendant of the Walchand family, the second thing that you must do, the money that you have availed from the sale of the Kasturba Mangal Karyalaya Sanatorium, that money that you have availed, you must do the accounting and hand over that money to the Jain community, so that that money could be used for the purpose for which your forefathers had set up the trust. Mr. Chakor Doshi, please remember, all of us are not going to be here forever. And please remember, जैन आगम में कहा है, कर्मा का सिद्धांत अगर गलत करोगे तो कहीं ना कहीं उसका भुगतान करना ही पड़ेगा. आज जैन बोर्डिंग को बेच के तुम आने वाले लाखों बच्चों के भविष्य से खेल रहे हो, और उसकी उन जो बच्चों की और उन बच्चों के पेरेंट्स की जो बद्दुआएं तुम्हें लगेंगी, मिस्टर चकोर दोषी, आई एम सॉरी टू से, उस पाप से, उस कोप से तुम जन्मों जन्मों तक भी अपने आप को मुक्त नहीं कर पाओगे और इतनी दुर्गति सहन करोगे कि तुमको समझेगा भी नहीं कि किससे माफ़ी मांगू, किससे क्षमा मांगू, कैसे ये गलती को सुधारूं। अभी भी वक्त है मिस्टर चकोर दोषी, एज अ मेंबर ऑफ जैन कम्युनिटी, एज अ पास्ट रेसिडेंट ऑफ HND जैन बोर्डिंग, I am urging you, mend your ways. Whatever mistakes that you have done, correct them. Here is your opportunity to rectify them. Correct the mistakes, bring peace, be thankful to all the people who have helped you in changing and mending your ways. I am sure you will understand this and you will listen to. That is going to be good, and not only for you, but for the and for the community, but also for your ancestors. They would really feel that they have not committed a mistake by letting people like you be at the helms of trust like these. Jai Jinendra.